Imagine a world where your voice is taken from you. Not physically. You can still move your lips, still form shapes with your mouth, but the words won't come. For nearly 5 years, that was Maya Angelou's reality. Born Marguerite Johnson in 1928 in Long Beach, California, she grew up in the American South during the Great Depression, in a world painted in shades of poverty, racism, and the lingering trauma of her childhood. But this is not a story about silence ending in silence. This is the story of how Maya Angelou learned to sing, even when the world told her she had no right to her own voice. Maya's childhood was fractured from the start. Her parents divorced when she was young, and she and her brother Bailey were sent to live with their grandmother in Stamps, Arkansas. Growing up in the segregated South meant living under the weight of Jim Crow laws, where every space, every store, every street, every moment was divided by race. Her grandmother ran a general store that served the black community, a place where Maya observed life, listened to stories, and learned the complex dance of surviving in a world designed to diminish you. But at 8 years old, everything changed. A man named Freeman, a family friend who sometimes stayed with them, began to sexually abuse her. The trauma was devastating, shattering her sense of safety forever. When Freeman was caught and arrested, he was killed, murdered, likely by family members seeking justice. Maya, traumatized and confused, made a silent vow she would not speak again. And she didn't. For nearly 5 years, Maya moved through the world without speaking. People thought she was mute. She went to school, she sat in classrooms, she attended church, and she said nothing. Her voice became a weapon she wielded against a world that had hurt her, a way of controlling the only thing she felt she could control. But in her silence, something remarkable happened. She started to read. Voraciously, obsessively, she consumed every book she could find. Shakespeare, Dickens, Poe, the Bible, everything within reach. She memorized passages, let the language wash over her, and slowly began to understand that books could be a refuge. They could carry her away from Stamps, away from the South, away from her trauma. In the library and in borrowed books, she found a world where she could exist without having to speak, without having to expose the broken parts of herself to anyone. But books also did something else. They gave her language. They showed her that words could be beautiful, powerful, and transformative. She began to recite passages aloud when she was alone, testing the feel of language on her tongue. And then, at about 13 years old, something shifted. A teacher or mentor, accounts vary, recognized the depth in this silent girl and encouraged her to speak. In that moment, Maya began to find her way back to her voice. It wasn't sudden or complete. It was gradual, fragile, like a plant slowly turning toward light after months in darkness. The silence that had protected her was also imprisoning her. The books had shown her that there was a world beyond her pain, and slowly, carefully, she began to step into it. She started to speak again, to engage with the world, to reclaim the language that had been stolen from her. As a young woman, Maya began to reinvent herself. She left Stamps and moved between different cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, searching for who she could become beyond her trauma. She worked as a streetcar conductor, a dancer, a singer. She created new names for herself, new identities. In San Francisco, she gave birth to her son, Guy, and although she was young and the circumstances were complicated, she became fiercely devoted to him. Motherhood gave her a new kind of purpose. She worked jobs that seemed beneath her, any job that would feed her son and keep them together. She sang in nightclubs, she danced in theaters, she took whatever work she could find. These years were marked by struggle, by financial hardship, by the constant weight of trying to make it as a black woman in post-World War II America. But they were also years of growth. She was discovering her talents, testing her voice not just in speech but in song, in movement, in the way she presented herself to the world. Throughout all of this, The struggle, the work, the searching, Maya was becoming someone extraordinary. She performed in the Metropolitan Opera House. She toured internationally as a dancer and singer. She appeared in films and on television. But more importantly, she was healing. The more she used her voice, the more it belonged to her. She began to understand that the years of silence, as painful as they were, had given her something precious. The ability to listen deeply, to observe the world with clarity, to understand the power of words because she had lived without them. She studied drama, literature, and dance. She fell in love. She made mistakes. She kept moving forward. And then she began to write. Writing became her most authentic voice. She poured everything she had, all the trauma, all the resilience, all the beauty she had discovered, into her words. By the 1950s and 1960s, she was establishing herself as a writer, a poet, and eventually a memoirist. When she finally wrote I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings in 1969, it was a reckoning with everything she had survived. She laid bare her trauma, her shame, her silence, and her journey toward voice. The title itself is a metaphor. The caged bird sings not because it is free, but because singing is a way of surviving captivity. It's an act of defiance, of claiming something beautiful even in the midst of imprisonment. By telling her story, Maya Angelou gave voice to countless people who had also been silenced by trauma, by racism, by shame, by the weight of a world that told them their voices didn't matter. She showed that silence can be a response to trauma, but it doesn't have to be a final answer. She demonstrated that healing is possible, that transformation is real, and that your voice, when you find it, has the power to change not just your own life, but the lives of everyone who hears it. The woman who didn't speak for 5 years became one of the most celebrated voices in American literature. The lesson that Maya Angelou teaches us through her life and this remarkable memoir is profound and urgent. Your voice matters, not because it's the loudest or the most polished, but because it's yours. She teaches us that trauma can silence us, but it doesn't have to define us. She shows us that books and literature can be a refuge when the world is too painful, that seeking knowledge is an act of resistance, and that speaking your truth, no matter how late in coming, is always an act of courage. Maya Angelou's journey from the caged silence of her childhood to becoming a voice that would echo through generations reminds us that healing is not linear, but it is possible. Her resilience, her refusal to be diminished, and her commitment to using her hard-won voice to uplift others became the legacy she left to the world. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is not just a memoir. It's a testament to the human capacity to survive, to transform, and ultimately to sing. Thanks for watching. If you found Maya Angelou's story as moving as we did, subscribe for more powerful book summaries and stories that will transform the way you see the world. We share new summaries every week, stories about resilience, transformation, and the human spirit. You won't want to miss what's next.